All right, today we are introducing a brand new topic, completing the square. Still has a lot to do with factoring, but this is something that you've never really seen before. All right, so to introduce completing the square, we're going to use some algebra tiles. So I'm sure you have not seen algebra tiles in a while, so just gonna go over them. All right, so these are algebra tiles, basically little blocks that gives you a better visual of what we're doing. So I have a square. Hence, it says x squared. Um, it's positive because it's blue. I didn't really want to show you negative squares. So if it was negative, it'd be a red square. But when we're completing the square, most of them just positive anyway. All right, so we have a positive square. That's why it's number 2 as the exponent. Then we have positive x's and negative x's. Notice it's just one. So this is just one positive x and one negative x. Notice it doesn't have any exponents. That's why it's just the rectangle. And then we have positive ones and negative ones. These are our constants. Call them units. So basically just our numbers. We have positive and negative. All right, so we're going to take what I just told you about algebra tiles and we're going to model a trinomial. So how do I know it's a trinomial? Because it has 3 terms. All right, and they want us to model this with the algebra tiles. So I have x squared plus 4x plus 4. X squared means a square, and it's only one of them. Remember, if it's not a number in front of the variable, that just means it's 1. So this is telling me that I have 1 square plus 4x. That means I have positive 4x. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Positive 4x. And then it's saying I also have positive 4 units. Remember, that's the one that doesn't have a variable. So I'll just grab 4 positives because that's what plus 4 means. All right. Now, the thing is, they want us to see if this is a perfect square trinomial. Perfect square means how can I rearrange these algebra tiles mathematically that will still give me a square? Well, I know I have a square here, but if I rearrange all of these, can I build a bigger square? All right, so we're going to take all things that we know about a square. We know that it has 4 sides, and we know that all 4 sides are the same. They are equal. So let's build. I'll put one here because it's the same length, obviously, and one here. All right. Since we know that squares all have the same length, if I put 2 rectangles on this side, then I'm going to put 2 down here too because they all the same. Now, the thing is, I have this little open area right here, and I need to fill it with what I can fill it with, which is probably going to be these tiny 4 here. I'm trying to get my stuff together. And look at that. I have a nice square. So is this a perfect square trinomial? Let's take what we know about a square. Well, what are my side lengths of this big old square that I done concocted over here? Well, I know that this blue x squared has a side length of x. I say it has a side length of x because see how perfectly it fits right there? Even if I want to take it the long way, it still fits perfectly. So it has a side length of x. And that means this also has a side length of x because it's the same. Well, what about here? What does this green rectangle have a length of? Of 1 unit. Notice how it literally fits perfectly in there. So it has a length of 1 unit. So 1 and 1, that means I got 2. So this entire side length over here is x plus 2. Well, what about this side length? X plus 1, 2. So x plus 2. Well, what about this side length? X plus 1, 2. And what about this side length? X plus 2. So yes, it is definitely a perfect square trinomial because all of my sides are literally the same. So yeah, it's a perfect square trinomial. But what if they want me to factor it? So when we're talking about factor, we're normally talking about something about the area. So I'm just going to multiply my two sides together. Well, what are my two sides? X plus 2 and x plus 2. So x plus 2 times x plus 2. What is another way that I can rewrite that where it kind of condenses it? Well, ain't it the same? So can I say, since it's x plus 2 times x plus 2, can I say x plus 2 squared since it's two of them? Absolutely. So my factored form is x plus 2 squared. All right, so let's take that and let's see if something is a perfect square trinomial if they don't give me all the information. So they said x squared minus 6x plus what is going to make this a perfect square trinomial, because it ain't even a trinomial because it doesn't have three terms, and I needed to have three terms for it to at least be a trinomial. So x squared minus 6x plus what number is going to give me a perfect square trinomial? So we're going to take our algebra tiles and build. So I have x squared minus 6x. So that means I need some negative x's. So negative 1x, negative 2x, negative 3x. So just like before, if I know that I had three negative x's on this side, if I know all of the sides of my square are the same, then I need to put three negative x's down here. All right, now they want to know, is it a perfect square trinomial? I need to see how many units do I need to use down here that's going to fill this square up. So let's see. Well, I used 3 on that row. See if I can jug something right quick. Okay. So how many units did I use to actually fill up my square? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it took me 9 units to make this a square. So is it a perfect square trinomial? Let's see. Well, this has a side length of x, and this has a side length of what? That's a negative 1, that's a negative 1, that's a negative 1. So this has a side length of x minus 3. Well, because I know all of the sides of my doggone square are going to be the same, because that's what they tell me about a square. If this has a side length of x minus 3, guess what this has a side length of? X minus 3. So let me write it like this. I'm tripping. So both of these has a side length of x minus 3. So yes, it is definitely a perfect square trinomial, but let's factor it. Well, we already did, because we said this has a side length of x minus 3 and this has a side length of x minus 3. That means I got two x minus 3s. So factored form is x minus 3 squared. So let's talk about something. If my factored form is x minus 3 squared, what do you notice about this negative 3 and my middle term of a negative 6? It's half of it, because negative 6, half of negative 6 is equal to negative 3. Well, what about that same negative 3 and our number that we found to complete our square, 9? So if you say, oh, they squared it, you're absolutely right. Because half of negative 6 is a negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. So that is how you complete your square. You take half of your middle term and you square it, and it will complete your square. Well, Ms. Carter, you had just said that in the beginning? Absolutely, but I wanted to give you a visual representation of what was actually going on. So, shortcut. Determine the value of c that is going to create a perfect square trinomial and factor it. So, x squared plus 4x plus what number? Well, what do we know about a square? I know that it all has equal sides. So, I can just take my dimensions. X squared plus 4x. Well, what's half of that? X plus 2. X plus 2. Well, what's 2 squared? Because that's half of my middle term. Half of my middle term was 2. And what's 2 squared? 9. Well, it's what am I talking about? 9. It's 4. Oh, Jesus. All right. So now I still need to factor it. Well, when I wrote my dimensions, I did factor it. Because I got x plus 2 times x plus 2. So factored form is x plus 2 squared. Well, what about x squared minus 6x plus what? It's going to complete my square. Well, I know my dimensions are just x minus 3 because that's half of what they gave me, and x minus 3. So, yes, half of negative 6, which is my b term, is a negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. So let's factor it. Well, we already factored it when we wrote the dimensions because x minus 3 times x minus 3 is x minus 3 squared. So x squared plus 8x plus what is going to complete my square? Well, what are my dimensions of what they gave me? X squared plus 8x, x plus 4. Well, if that side is x plus 4, this side is x plus 4. So what's going to complete this? 16. Because half of my middle term is 4, and 4 squared is 16. So my factored form, because I already wrote my dimensions of x plus 4 times x plus 4, is x plus 4 squared. So I know it's a brand new topic. Still confused? In class, see me.